Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's virtual disaster center with the Maryland Insurance Administration. My name is Patty Dorn, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's event. Many parts of Maryland experienced extensive damage from a powerful storm last week. And if you experience damage from the storm, we do know this can be a very stressful situation, even if you are fairly confident that you have the right insurance. For this event today, we're going to start with a presentation by Associate Commissioner Joy Hatchett, and she's going to be covering insurance issues related to storm damage. And then after the presentation, we will be available to answer your questions and potentially help you with insurance issues that you are currently experiencing personally. Hopefully the presentation will answer some of the questions for some of you that you came here to get answered today. During Associate Commissioner Hatchett's presentations. Her presentation, please put any questions that you have for her in the chat box. So you should see a chat box and you can open that up and write the questions in there. It should be automatically set to everyone. And if you can keep it that way, that'd be great because everyone needs to see that question. It's more than one of us who might be accessing that information. So put your questions in the chat and keep them set to everyone. After Associate Commissioner Hatchett has finished the presentation, I'm going to ask her the questions from the chat during a Q&A session. So don't be frustrated if we don't get to your question right away. We're saving them to the end for a Q&A session. If you have a question that is specific to your own situation, we're going to be answering those in individual breakout rooms after the Q&A. Use the chat box to request a breakout room. The breakout rooms are not recorded, and you will be meeting one-on-one with a representative from the Maryland Insurance Administration. Joy's presentation will take about 30 to 40 minutes. If you don't have time to stay for the entire presentation, you can send an email requesting a copy of that presentation to Joyce Peach, and she'll go ahead and put her email address in the chat. You can send her an email, say, hey, can you please send me a copy of the presentation, and she'll send that over to you if you don't have time. Again, the presentation today will be about 30 to 40 minutes. Some housekeeping. A reminder, this event is being recorded. Please keep cameras off and mics on mute for the event, but feel free to turn your cameras on and your mics on in the breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are not recorded. So again, general questions, please feel free to ask those questions in the chat box. But if you have a question that is specific to your situation, please request a breakout room. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Associate Commissioner Joy Hatchett for the presentation.
Thank you, Patty. And as Patty indicated, I'm going to go through some of the specific questions that apply in general and sort of give you some information to help you better understand what you should do after the storm. And then if you have specific questions about your situation, those will be answered in the breakout room. Next slide, please. So what I want to start with is making sure that everyone understands that this presentation is not legal advice. And what you should do is, if you've got some questions and need legal advice, either talk with your insurance producer or your attorney. But this will give you some general information from the state agency that regulates insurance and can give you some information about things that we see every day at the Insurance Administration. Next slide, please. So the place that I want to start is trying to help you understand who actually will be approaching you and the role that they play with respect to the damage that you've received as a result of the storm. Next slide, please. So lots of different people from lots of different places probably have already started coming to you to try to help you. Those are going to obviously include your neighbors. You may have some county officials, or if you live in a municipality, city officials. People from the Red Cross or community groups might approach you. But then you also have other individuals, contractors and insurance people that may try to help you or may approach you. And the most important thing that we stress is anyone that comes to your door, make sure that you get appropriate identification from them to make sure that you know who you're dealing with. I mean, this is critical because you don't want just anyone coming to you. Make sure that you check their ID. Next slide, please. So let's start with the person that you'll be dealing with from the insurance company. And that person is generally called a company adjuster. Now, that person actually works for the insurance company. They're paid for by the insurance company. Now, some insurance companies have their own adjusters in-house and they only work for them. But then there are other companies that have something called an independent adjuster. And so they may work for several different companies. And also, depending on the size of the event, if it's a very large event, you may have a company adjuster or an independent adjuster that comes from a different state. But remember this, that person is representing the insurance company. And so what will happen is that person will come out, they'll look at your damage, they'll want to actually see the damage, they'll take photos, and then either they will give you an estimate, or what happens frequently is they'll take those pictures, take that information, provide it to the insurance company, and then the insurance company will, based on the terms of your particular policy, come back to you with the actual offer for how much they will pay for your damage. Next slide, please. So the other person that may come to you is something called a public adjuster. Now, the public adjuster works for you, the consumer. So remember, the first person is the company adjuster. They work for the company. Public adjusters work for the consumer, which means that they are paid by the consumer. So the amount that you receive from a public adjuster comes out of your insurance proceeds. And so the public adjuster, you're going to sign a contract with them. They will estimate your damage and they will review your insurance policy, and they will work with the insurance company to negotiate the amount for payment of your claim. Next slide, please. So as I indicated, with the public adjuster, they are going to give you a written contract. And under Maryland law, there are very specific things that have to be included in that contract. And this slide gives a list of a lot of those things. Now, the most important thing on this slide is that your contract has to include the name of the public adjuster, the address of the public adjuster, the license number of the public adjuster. And that's important, that license number, because under Maryland law, public adjusters must be licensed by the Maryland Insurance Administration. So your contract will have that license number on it. The other important thing that's going to be on that contract is a description of the loss and where that loss is located. So your actual address of the particular loss. Next slide, please. And then also the contract will say what types of services the public adjuster will perform. And the contract will also have the signature, and this is key, the signature of the public adjuster. It will also have your signature. You don't want to ever sign a document that doesn't have the signature of the public adjuster. Remember, this is a contract. So in order for it to be binding, it needs to have both signatures. The contract also needs to have the date, and I will get to why that date is so important in a couple of minutes. The other important information that this contract will have is it'll explain to you that the public adjuster may end up having or incurring out-of-pocket costs, and that you will be responsible for reimbursing the public adjuster for those costs. And also the contract will indicate how much compensation the public adjuster is entitled to. Next slide, please. So this is why the date is critical. You have 3 business days after you sign that contract to cancel it. So if for whatever reason you sign a contract and you think the next day, you wake up the next day and say, I shouldn't have signed that, you've got 3 business days from the date that it's signed to cancel that. Next slide. So the other important person that you may encounter is a contractor. So a contractor that performs home improvement or repairs is going to be someone, you're going to want someone that is licensed by the Maryland Home Improvement Commission. And the reason that that's so important is that if there's something that's done inappropriately or they don't perform the duties that they should, you can file a complaint with the Maryland Home Improvement Commission for them to review the work of the contractor. So it's really important that you deal with licensed home improvement contractors. And the contact information for the Home Improvement Commission is down at the bottom of this particular slide. Next slide. Now, if the person is not performing true home improvement, but instead is demolishing, taking down a house that's been damaged, or removing damaged property, that doesn't fall within the scope of the contractor for the Home Improvement Commission. So that person, you're not going to be able to find out and get someone that's licensed with the Home Improvement Commission. But if you have questions about someone that is doing demolition or removal work, you can get in touch with the Better Business Bureau, and they can assist you to find out if there have been any complaints filed against that particular person. Next slide, please. Now, you also may have a remediation or a mitigation company. So that's somebody that may be, let's say, boarding up your windows, tarping things over, doing things just to make sure that the home is livable. Those people also do not get a license from the Home Improvement Commission. You would also need to contact the Better Business Bureau to find out information about those folks. Next slide. Now, this is an important point. Your deductible, and we're going to get into deductibles later on, but contractors and public adjusters may not promise to pay your deductible. Let me repeat that. You are the one that's going to have to pay your deductible. Your contractor or your public adjuster cannot pay that amount. And if in fact you are approached by someone who says that they can, you need to contact us, and the phone numbers to get in touch with us are on this slide so that we can talk to that particular contractor or public adjuster. Next slide. So let's get into the meat of this. Filing a claim. So sometimes people need to think about whether or not it's appropriate to file a claim. Let me give you an example. If you have a deductible that's $1,000 and your claim is only $500, your insurance company is not going to pay you anything because the damage is less than your deductible. So filing a claim basically is not going to get you anything. So you really need to make sure that you understand what your deductible is and how much your damage is. So what you may want to do is get in touch with the contractor and find out, okay, how much is it going to cost to repair this particular item? Now, I also caution people because your homeowner's policy is not a maintenance policy. So if you have a roof that you've not maintained or not done anything to, and then you also end up having a few shingles that blow off of your roof because of a storm, the amount that the insurance company will be required to pay will be limited if they're required to pay anything at all. And just because a contractor says to you, you need a new roof, you may very well need that roof, but that roof may not be covered by your homeowner's insurance company because the claim or the damage was not the result of a covered peril. Next slide. So if you believe that the damage is more than your deductible, then you need to get in touch with your insurance company and report that damage as soon as possible. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the steps and the things that you should do as a part of that reporting process. Next slide. So when you're making the call to report the claim, hopefully you know what your homeowner's insurance policy number is. That document that the insurance company sends you every year, it's called the declaration page, that will have your policy number on it. And if you can't find your policy number, then you can get in touch with your agent and your agent can help you with that. Next slide. So let's say you contact your insurance company and you've had one of those trees that has fallen into your home and you can't, because the damage is major, you can't stay in your home. You need to make sure that the insurance company knows how to get in touch with you. So if you're not staying in your home, don't give the insurance company the landline at your home to get in touch with you. Give them a cell phone number and make sure that they know where you are so they can contact you. Now, once you've called the insurance company, before you start doing any repairs, immediately take photos and videos of the damage. That's critical. You need to, I mean, everybody, when I don't want to say everybody, but most people these days have cell phones. Pull that cell phone out and take lots and lots of videos. Next slide. And so here's a whole list of things that you need to and should find out when you're talking to your insurance company. Make sure that everyone that you talk to, you get their name and their number, and basically make a log of, get a notebook, write down everybody you talk to, the time you talk to them, the dates you talk to them, and a summary of the conversation. Write down your claim number. Ask them, okay, what steps do you specifically require? If you need basically to have a place to live because your home is not habitable, ask them, how do I do that? Ask them, how long am I going to be entitled to have another place to stay? Ask them about your deductibles. Ask them if there are any other rules that you need to know. Next slide. And so what next? So if things are proceeding well, then the insurance company will send out that company adjuster that we talked about at the very beginning. They'll come out, they'll take pictures, they will write down what kind of damage you've incurred, and then either on the spot or they may need to get in touch with the insurance company, start and give you information about the claim. Now, if you've already gotten a contractor, it's a good idea to have that contractor present when the company adjuster comes to inspect your property. Next slide. So a lot of people really want to know, how long will all of this take? And it's really going to depend on a couple of things. How large is the damage to your home? Can you live in your home? And how severe is the damage in general to the area? So if it's just your home and no other houses have been impacted, then that's going to happen faster than if in fact every house on the street is damaged. Also, if the amount of your damage is substantial, that's going to mean that it's going to take longer. Depending on the circumstances, sometimes the entire process from the date of the damage to the time to get your home repaired or replaced could take as long as a couple of years. So what we say to people is, you need to be patient, but if you have questions about timing, get in touch with the insurance company, get in touch with your adjuster, find out what's going on. And then if you still don't feel as if it's proceeding as appropriately as possible, you can get in touch with us and we can assist you with that. Next slide. So once again, it really does depend on the type of damage and what else is going on as to how long it's going to take. Next slide. So what happens if you're not satisfied with the settlement? Well, first and foremost, the place that I like to make sure people understand is, just because your neighbor receives X amount for their damage doesn't mean you're going to receive the exact same amount. And that's because, first of all, the amount of damage to your home and your neighbor's home may be different. But more importantly, the coverage under your insurance policy may be different. So don't say, well, Joe received X amount of dollars and I'm only getting something else, so something must be wrong. Now, if you disagree, then the place to start is talk to your contractor, and the contractor can basically show the insurance company how they came up with the particular dollar amount. And if you still can't get things settled to your satisfaction, you can get in touch with us. And we at the Maryland Insurance Administration can walk you through why the insurance company reached a particular dollar amount, and we can maybe explain the steps that you can take in order to feasibly increase the amount of your settlement. Next slide. So one of the other questions that we frequently get is, and you heard me mention this before, additional living expenses. If you are unable to live in your home because the damage that was caused by a covered item, so tree falls into your home and you can't live there, under most insurance policies, they will pay for you to go to a hotel or an apartment so that you can have a place to live while your home is being repaired. But this is key. There's certain things that you're not going to be able to receive payment for under additional living expenses. Next slide, please. So the key thing that you need to know is additional living expenses do not include payment for your mortgage. Let me repeat that. Additional living expenses do not include payment for a mortgage. Now, as I indicated, they will generally pay for a hotel or someplace else for you to stay. However, if the insurance company ends up giving you a hotel or an apartment that has a kitchen, then it's not also going to pay for you to go out every night and eat dinner at a restaurant, because it's basically deemed that you will use that part of your money to, just like if you were at home, go and buy groceries, which you already do when you're at home, and cook. Now, what you should do is talk to your insurance company so that you can make sure what types of things are covered as additional living expenses. And the key here is to keep receipts of everything that you spend money for, because you will need to submit those receipts in order to get payment for additional living expenses. Next slide, please. So, pardon me. You will have, under the terms of your policy, either something called replacement cost coverage or actual cash value coverage. So replacement cost is exactly that. If you have a loss and you have a replacement cost policy, the insurance company will pay to have what's damaged repaired or replaced without deducting the depreciation. Now, generally, what'll end up happening is that you will have to actually do the repairs or the replacement before they give you the full replacement cost. But if once you've done the replacement, the insurance company will give you that amount. Now, if you have an actual cash value policy, then the insurance company will deduct the depreciation from the amount of the repairs. So if you don't know whether you have a replacement cost or an actual cash value, look at your declaration page. Remember, that's what I refer to as the document that the insurance company sends you every year. Look at that document, and that'll tell you whether you have a replacement cost or an actual cash value. And sometimes a policy will have coverage under replacement costs for some items and actual cash value for others. So if you're confused or you don't know or just need some help, talk to your insurance company or your agent, and they will be able to tell you. Next slide. So here are the things that you need to focus on. After the loss, contact your insurance company. Take photos and videos of any damage. Only make repairs that are necessary to prevent further damage. That means tarping the roof, covering the windows. Do not make permanent repairs until you've talked to your insurance company. Before you remove any damaged property, I mean, a lot of times what the counties will do is they'll say, well, we're going to have a truck in the area the Saturday after the event. Make sure that you give your insurance company the opportunity to look at the damaged property before you throw it away. Now, the insurance company may say to you, it's fine, go ahead and throw it away. But if they say that to you, get that in writing so that you don't have issues later on. And if the insurance company says, well, we don't have time to put that in writing, then what you should do is either send an email or some way to formalize that I talked to Joy Hatchett on July the 13th, and she told me that I do not have to keep these particular items. It's fine for me to throw them away. And then make sure that that documentation is sent directly, promptly to the insurance company before you actually dispose of the item. Next slide. Remember, keep all of your receipts. If you want to, I mean, they're going to be like if you had to go out and buy a tarp, keep your receipt for that. Like I said, if you get additional living expenses, keep your receipts for all that. Prepare a detailed inventory of everything that was damaged or destroyed, and keep, as indicated here on the slide, the description of the item, how much you're going to pay to replace it, all of that. Next point, make sure that you're present when the insurance adjuster inspects your property. And if at all possible, it's a good thing to have your contractor there as well, because the contractor may be able to point out other things that the company adjuster might just overlook. So it's important to have everybody there. Next, the final thing to remember is if you don't think that the settlement offer is sufficient, don't accept it, because what you may find is depending on if you accept it, you may be precluded later from getting payment for additional damage. Next slide. So let's talk for 1 second about deductibles. As I mentioned in the very beginning, you are the one that's responsible for your deductible. And the deductible is the amount that you, under the terms of your policy, have to pay. And most policies used to have flat deductibles, but there may be different amounts of deductibles for different types of losses. However, some policies have what's called a percentage deductible. So for the ease of math, let's do it this way. It's the percentage of how much your home is insured for. So let's say you have a home and it's insured for $300,000 and you have a 10% percentage deductible. That means that your deductible is $30,000. So if your loss is $31,000, that means you pay $30,000 for the damage, and the insurance company is only responsible for $1,000. If your loss is $29,000, you bear the entire $29,000 loss. So it is critical that you know and understand what your deductible is. Next slide. So let's move for just a few minutes to what happens if you have damage to your automobile. So just like with your home, it's important that you understand what your policy covers and what it doesn't cover. Now, for some people, they will only have a liability policy, which means that if the tree falls on your car and you have only have liability coverage, then your insurance policy is not going to pay anything to repair that damage. Once again, look at your declaration page to see whether you have only liability coverage. So let's say that you look at your policy and you have full coverage. Then contact your insurance company and they can tell you and help you how to proceed. Now, sometimes the insurance companies have a list of body shops that they work with, and they will give you the name of the body shop. But remember this, you have the absolute right to take your car to any body shop that you prefer. So you do not have to use the body shop that the insurance company has recommended. Next slide. So if the body shop, if you use the insurance company's body shop and you disagree with how much they're saying, how much damage they're saying there is, then you've got the right to take your car to a different body shop to get a different estimate. You have the right to dispute that. Now, you've got the right to dispute it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the insurance company has to accept your estimate. You can contact the insurance company, talk with them about it, and if you still disagree, you can get in touch with us and we can work with you to help you either understand or make sure that you are taking the steps necessary to dispute that particular estimate. Next slide, please. So what happens if the insurance company says your car is a total loss and you disagree with it? First and foremost, the insurance company by law is required to deem a car a total loss if the amount of the damage is more than 75% of the value of the vehicle. Next slide, please. So basically, if it's going to be more than 75% to repair that vehicle, then the insurance company has no choice but to deem the car a total loss. But if you dispute either how much it's going to cost to repair your vehicle, or you dispute how much they've determined your car is worth, then you can actually challenge that. Next slide. So this will basically tells you how you can dispute that amount. You can look for comparable vehicles to see if there are other vehicles that are in this area that are either worth more than the insurance company is saying your vehicle is worth, or you also may want to say that your vehicle has these extra bells and whistles, so that means that your vehicle is also worth more. And if you still are having an issue with your insurance company, you can feel free to get in touch with us and we can assist you with that. Next slide. And once again, just because you disagree with the insurance company and you provide the additional documentation, the insurance company, as long as they have a rational basis for how they reached that particular dollar figure, they're acting in compliance with Maryland law. Next slide. So that ends my presentation. This is how you get in touch with us. This is our contact information. You can give us a call. Also, this is our website. So please feel free, if you don't get a chance to get questions answered this evening, just get in touch with us. So Patty, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Joy. There's a few questions in the chat. And again, if you have questions that are general, go ahead and put them in the chat. And if you have questions that are specific, please request a breakout room so you can meet with somebody one-on-one to talk about your specific situation. So the first question, Joy, is I don't know how to choose a contractor. The insurance company offers contractors. Is it advisable to use those contractors or find contractors on my own?
So generally speaking, most insurance companies don't. Unlike in the automobile area, most insurance companies actually don't recommend contractors. But if yours does, that's totally up to you as to whether you want to use them or not. If you have questions about how to choose a good contractor, what I would say is go to the website of the Maryland Home Improvement Commission, and they've got some really good information on how to select a contractor. But the key to remember is make sure that contractor is licensed. I mean, you can always talk to your family and friends, but I truly would start by going to the Maryland Home Improvement Commission, look at what they're saying to you, because there are all kinds of rules about how much the contractor should be paid and things of that nature. And then also, once again, I can't stress it enough, use a licensed contractor.
Thanks, Joy. So the next question is about a municipality, about Hyattsville and the old sewer lines. Do you want to take that in this form, or do you want that to
That
go to
should go
breakout?
to a breakout session.
Okay, all right, Danny, then we're going to assign you to a breakout after the Q&A. The next question, can I do some of the work myself and charge the insurance company? Example, removing tree off the roof, drywalling damaged areas, cleaning the falling bricks from a chimney, fixing the fencing.
So generally speaking, I mean, clearly you can do the work yourself, but generally speaking, you're not going to be able to get reimbursed for much of that. If you're planning on doing that, what I would recommend is you go to a breakout room and speak with one of our experts, and they can go over because it's really going to depend a lot on the type of work and things of that nature. So I would recommend that you go to a breakout room and talk about that, what you're planning on doing, and all of that with one of our experts.
Thanks, Joy. So Amy, if you would like a breakout room, please go ahead and request that in the chat and we'll get you sent over. Feel free to ask any more general questions in the chat, but those are the only questions that we have now. And so we're going to start assigning people to those breakout rooms where you're going to have the opportunity to speak with an MIA representative one-on-one. And then if you decide to stay in the general room with us, we're going to hold this for another 15 minutes approximately. And we're going to be showing you some more videos about information related to insurance and natural disasters. So just go ahead, and if you have more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. If you want a breakout room, go ahead and put that information in the chat as well. And it looks like Danny got kicked out. Danny, there'll be somebody sending you back to a breakout room shortly. We'll start the videos in a minute. And again, for those of you, if you got your questions answered, that's great. We're really glad that you attended tonight. If you do want a copy of that presentation, that PowerPoint presentation, you can send an email to joyce.peach@maryland.gov. We will also post it on our website at the beginning of next week. Joyce's email address is up at the top of the chat.
For Danny, I show that he is assigned to room 2. He just hasn't joined it yet. So there's somewhere on his screen he needs to click to join.
Thanks, Joyce.
Uh-huh.
Joyce, are you going to be showing the videos?
Yes, I just want to make sure everybody's in their rooms first before I do that.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Let me give.
Gina, Joyce's email, it's up at the top of the chat. Oh, you joined late. You can't see it. All right, I'll send it out again. There you go. Joy, there is another question in the chat. Peggy says, thank you for all this for the informative session. I would like to ask that when the insurance sends their people over to look at the damages, is it our right to see the notes they made as well?
So you basically want to ask them for a copy of whatever documentation they're making while they're looking at your particular property, or tell me what you, I mean, I guess I'm not understanding when you say the notes.
Peggy, if you want to clarify, you can unmute.
Hello, this is Peggy speaking. The question was because when they sent someone over, so this guy was writing and make all the document, and make notes on his computer or book. I assume that he was making the notes of what he saw of the damage of the house. So my question was, is it my right to ask to look at those notes that he made, or as you said, asking a copy? Because I was wondering what they saw, what they saw of the damage, and maybe there are things that they didn't put in the note, but that we are aware of.
So, I mean, generally speaking, especially the notes, there may or may not be, they may not want to turn those over to you. However, if you were to file a complaint with us, we at the MIA could get a copy of those notes. But this is why it's important to have your contractor with you when they're there, because your contractor is able to point out, because basically when the insurance company's out there, they're looking at the damages and they're looking at, you know, what items were damaged and how badly were they damaged. So yes, it's possible that they missed something. So what the better thing than to have their particular notes is to have your contractor's estimate and send that estimate to them, to have them, you've got the documentation to prove what you believe were damaged, what actually damaged items. So then you've got what you're saying you think's damaged and what they're saying they think's damaged. So you can compare those particular two things. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much. So in our situation was the adjuster or who was actually on the site from the insurance company to look at the damage. He was already here, but at the time we didn't, we were just still dealing the tree falling off on the roof. So we didn't have any contractor at the time. And right now we are still trying to secure a contract to come over, which is everyone's, I mean, in our neighborhood, a lot of houses are being damaged. So these contractors, they're also very busy. So if they can, I mean, right now in our cases, they definitely will come after the adjuster already left. So do you mean like we can still, whatever the
No.
contract say?
Well, this is what I would recommend that you do.
Uh-huh.
I recommend that you go to a breakout room and talk with
Okay.
someone specifically, and they can assist you with your specific issue.
Thank you very much, Joy. So,
Patty, that's going to be you, okay?
yes, please.
All right, you got the chat?
Joy's got, yeah, we got you.
Yeah, there's another question. All right.
Joyce, did I see that another person wanted a breakout room? Because if so, I can get in touch with Robert.
I don't see that I'm waiting for anybody, But we
Okay.
do have the question from Gina.
Okay, well, oops, sorry, I missed that. Let me take a look.
It's at the very bottom.
So the question is whether or not the insurance company is going to pay an extra amount of money. That really is going to depend on the circumstances. I mean, it's very easy for the insurance company to say it's not these additional damage in the contractor's estimate is either something that's not covered or that it exceeds what's reasonable costs are. So it's not automatic. And I would give the insurance company a chance to see if they pay it. And if they don't, this is once again something that you can come to us and we can review their action.
Thank you, Joy. That was helpful.
You're quite welcome.
And Joy, we have one room available if somebody needs it.
Okay, great.
Do you want to do the video?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and I'll keep my eye out for the chat.
If a tree falls on your property, are you covered by your homeowner's policy? The answer is that it depends on the terms of your policy. Generally, many homeowners' policies provide coverage for damage to your home and the contents of your home if a tree, even if it is your neighbor's tree, falls on your home or other insured structure, such as a fence or a detached garage. If your neighbor's tree was dead and the neighbor knew it was dead, then your homeowner's insurer may seek reimbursement from your neighbor for the claim. This is called subrogation. The amount of coverage will be determined by your policy's dollar limits. Your homeowner's policy may also pay a limited amount, usually between $500 and $1,000, to remove the tree from your property. The amount paid for the tree removal is typically based on the event and not the number of trees that fall. This means that you will receive the same amount of money whether one tree falls or if 10 trees fall. Your homeowner's policy will not provide coverage for damage to your car if the tree falls on it. If you have comprehensive coverage on your automobile, then your automobile policy will pay for the damage. Talk to a representative from your insurer to find out what your policy covers, or visit our website for more information at www.insurance.maryland.gov.
Although weather-related events such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and flooding are beyond our control, you can take steps to prepare. First, read your insurance policy carefully to make sure you understand what is covered, what is excluded from coverage, and what deductibles might apply. Also, check the limits of your coverage to determine whether you have sufficient coverage to repair or rebuild your home if it sustains major damage or is destroyed. Consider whether you should purchase flood insurance because damage caused by flooding is not covered under most homeowners' policies. Make an inventory of your personal property and keep that inventory someplace other than your home. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners has developed an app called My Home Scrapbook that is great for that purpose. You can find a link to it on our website. Finally, make sure you have contact information for your insurance company or agent and your policy number on hand. Learn more by visiting our website, insurance.maryland.gov, or by calling us at 1-800-492-6116.
If your car is damaged by a storm, the damage will be covered if you have comprehensive coverage, sometimes called comp or other than collision coverage. Comprehensive coverage usually covers damage from events other than a collision, such as a flood or from fallen trees. Comprehensive coverage is usually subject to a deductible that is shown on your policy's declaration page. If your vehicle has flood damage, it is important to file your claim as soon as you can. It is a good idea to take photographs or video of the damage and to take all of the necessary steps to prevent mold or mildew from developing in your vehicle. For example, you can properly dry out your vehicle to prevent mold and mildew. Your insurer may choose to pay for a cleaning before looking to see if there is any flood damage that needs to be repaired. If the car floated away, contact the police department to see if your car has been recovered. If a tree or limbs have fallen on your car, this damage would also likely be covered under your comprehensive coverage, subject to any applicable deductible. If the tree is on the property of another, such as a neighbor or on public land, the owner of the tree will generally not be responsible for the damage unless the tree was a known hazard prior to the accident and the owner failed to take action. If your car is damaged in a storm, the insurer will look at how much your car is worth versus how much the repairs will cost. Under Maryland law, a vehicle may be determined a total loss when the cost of repairs plus the cost of any anticipated rental reimbursement expense reaches 75% of the pre-loss value of your vehicle. It is important to know that your insurer may consider the cost of actual repairs as well as the potential repair cost of hidden damage and the cost of a rental vehicle in deciding if a vehicle is a total loss. If you are unsure whether or not you have purchased comprehensive coverage, you can look at your policy declarations or ask your insurance producer or insurer for details about what your policy covers. For further information, please visit our website at www.insurance.maryland.gov.
Although weather-related events, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and flooding, are beyond our control, consumers can take steps to help make the insurance claims process run smoothly. One thing you can do before bad weather hits is to make an inventory of your personal property and keep that inventory someplace other than your home. That list will help if you have to make a claim later. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners has developed an app called My Home Scrapbook that is great for this purpose. You can find a link to it on our website. Here are some helpful tips that can help you with filing a claim. Contact your insurance company or agent immediately to report any damage. As soon as it is safe to do so, prepare a detailed inventory of all damaged or destroyed property for the insurance adjuster and for yourself. Take photographs or a video of the damaged property to help document your claim and assist in the insurance company's investigation. Keep all receipts for emergency repairs and for any temporary living expenses if your home is not habitable. Make only those repairs necessary to prevent any further damage to your home or business. Do not have permanent repairs made without consulting your insurance company. Learn more by visiting our website, insurance.maryland.gov, or by calling us at 1-800-492-6116.
So that brings this portion of our presentation to an end. You've had the general presentation as well as you've seen the videos. I think some of you were in breakout rooms and have now rejoined us, but there is no additional presentation or nothing else that we're going to cover at this point. If you feel as if you have additional individual questions you want answered, then you need to indicate that you want to go back to a breakout room, or if you'd like copies of the slides immediately, as indicated, send Joyce Peach an email and she will send those out to you. Otherwise, have a good evening. And if, let's say, tomorrow you think of, well, not tomorrow, on Monday, you think of additional questions, feel free to give us a call at that 800 number that we've put on the screen a number of times, and you'll be able to speak with someone one-on-one at that point. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and have a good evening.